All right, hey everybody, we're back on the Young Playwrights Guide, and this gentleman over here on the screen to the left is the one and only Darin Earl. How you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself, Jim Jam?
I'm doing all right. Given the thing, I know Jim Jam, right? I was thinking what you've always called me that,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot of fun. But I thought we need a nickname for you. We got to come up with something so that we both have.
I've gotten Dare Bear many a time, so you
Dare
can
Bear. All right,
Dare Bear.
we'll go with that then. That seems to work pretty well. So just to give a little background, Darin has worked with me a couple times in the context of the Young Playwrights Festival. The Young Playwrights Festival. I know there was we definitely had you working on that for one season
Yeah.
with us. I think we've had you back a couple times in the schools in particular.
Yes, for residencies as well as a couple of like stage readings at the end of their residencies.
Now, did I start working with you while you were still in college, or had you graduated at that point?
I think it was my junior or senior year of college, actually.
Okay.
So it was after I was doing like side work and more focused on trying to like survive after college.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the big thing, right? That's the thing that we never get told about, and then suddenly it's here you go.
Yep.
It's not just good luck; it's good survival. You know?
Yeah, but we're here.
We're here, and we're doing it. So, yeah, and I'd love to hear a little bit more too about your background. You do a lot of different things creatively today, which I'd love to have you talk more about. But I'm also curious, how did you get there? You know, where did you start your artistic journey?
Gotcha. So let's go way back to when Darin was a wee lad. I didn't really do anything throughout my academic career that was mainly in theater. It was mostly in music. Nobody in my family is really big on music, performance, theory, anything like that. But my parents love to sing. My parents separated, but they love to sing in their own respective houses when I spend time with them. And my dad has like a better voice than my mom. So I guess I picked that up from him. But basically, my fourth grade year recital, my piano teacher and my band teacher were like, hey, you have a wonderful voice. Let's go ahead and put you in a choral school. I went to North Boys Chorus School from 5th grade to 8th grade. And we toured doing some choral music, which was very nice.
Cool.
And then I went to very loud truck, sorry about that.
It's all right.
And then I went to oratory prep in Summit.
Okay.
And they didn't have an arts program at all. They actually had to partner with like sister schools.
Okay.
So the first show I did for theater was my senior year of high school at Kent Place, and it was Rent, and I played Benjamin Coffin III.
Wow.
So leading up to all of that, I was kind of like creative writing and trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my art, but I didn't have a clear focus or understanding or background in it.
Yeah.
And then I went to Rider University for theater performance and journalism. And I found that there was a nice community there and also a great sense of autonomy because I was the only Black theater performance major in my grade. And so I was able to kind of like spring off of that to where I am today. We'll get into the creative projects and endeavors, but that's basically the background. All throughout that, I was doing work as like receptionist, pharmacy technician, as we were talking about before, and a whole bunch of like other stuff. Basically, helping out my mom's business, helping out my family where I could.
That's great. Yeah, tell me more about the pharmacy tech, because I think it's fascinating. You're the only person I know who has that kind of background, first of all. But also, I think it's, we there's always that stigma, and it's maybe it's a reality too, that if you're involved in the art, especially theater, there's always some kind of backup plan or something else to do. So I don't. Did pharmacy come about that way? How did you get into that? Like
it was kind of a strong-armed decision.
Okay.
Because going into college, I got the certificate maybe like 2013, 2014, and I started college in 2012. And my mom is a nurse, so she was like, I come from a background of financial stability, and you need to also have the same thing.
Sure, understood.
But she encouraged me to get the license by doing that program, and I actually really enjoyed it. It wasn't that bad. Basically, you're just taking care of some people who need their meds, and they have great personalities sometimes, and you build that rapport with the community. It was about a 6-month program. And then I was placed with a very lovely pharmacist, and the pharmacy, their team was awesome. I had a great time. It was like maybe a 2-summer thing to get me through college.
Yeah.
And then I applied for a couple of jobs after that, after college, but then I ended up doing a whole bunch of shows with and then residencies and teaching artists. So that panned out in my favor to start my career.
Yeah, and now I know you've done a lot of writing. I mean, since we've met
Yes.
you've always been I don't know if what kind of writing do you do? I hesitate to I just hesitate now to call you a playwright because you do a lot more than that.
Thank you. I guess
Yeah.
I like to dabble in anything and everything, try to understand it better. Recently, I've been exploring more screenplays because I'm finding myself going in a direction of wanting to direct films as my end game. But I definitely started out in the theater because that was what I was more familiar with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also do like creative writing, like short novels and all that nice stuff. I haven't published anything, but I did get one of my plays produced, I think, this summer of 2017, 2018, one of those there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was where was that again?
Oh, that was at Bordentown Pack with Breaking Through the Ducks.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was Southern Jersey-ish.
Yeah.
Wherever that line gets drawn, I don't know. But yeah, no, that's cool. And how does journalism? Have you found that do you bring that into the work?
Absolutely. So the first play that got produced was actually from one of my journalism classes. It was about how press were no longer allowed in the courtrooms because they were interfering with the right to a fair trial. And that was about the Shepard trials in 53 through 56 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm finding it's more the method of research for the dramaturgy that rather than the actual approach or content in writing the script, but it helps. Definitely helps.
Sure. So what are you working on now? I mean, I know we're in this weird situation where we're kind of finding work and what work is a very strange thing since we're all, at home or, we're limited in where we can go, what we can do. But I know you have a couple projects. What do you got going on?
Yes. Too many things for me to wrap my brain around, honestly.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing, right?
Right. I would say the top 3, as I'm working through the drafts for all of the projects that I've been working on, a screenplay about queer youth and their transition out of high school into college. Another one is drafting a stage play. That one's a little bit more abstract, so I can't really explain it just yet because I'm still formulating that. And then the last thing is building real material for actors. I have a little cohort of actors who are collaborating on the writing with me, but I'm basically setting the template, and then we're going to, it's 3 to 5 page short scenes that we can get in, get out, pull the material that we want from, and then we can publish. That's
fascinating. You're everyone who I've been talking to has always used the word collaborate or ensemble was something that Brittany Goodwin and I were talking about, having this ensemble of people. Tell me about that process. I mean,
the goods. Yeah, she's brilliant. So I'm not surprised at all that you guys had that conversation.
Yeah.
That it's like a handoff more so than a sit down and let's talk about things as it's being formed. So the first step for me is always to talk to them, see what they want, because ultimately it's to portray them and their brand and how they would like to be perceived for casting directors. And then I sketch out the idea of the template. I write out the scene. It's maybe like I said, 3 to 5 pages, very bare bones. And then we go back down, we sit down, we edit it together, most likely in person, if not then on a call, and we share a Google Doc or something.
Right.
And then after that, we revisit what we're basically trying to get to with the crux of the scene, and then figure out the highlight of what it's going to be. Is it going to be on the reel as a scene? Is it going to be on their reel as a monologue? Things like that. So that way we kind of structure the language so that it's optimal in that point of the script.
That's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah, that was always the fun that I had with I loved going into the schools.
Mm-hmm.
When we would take those scripts and go into the schools, and the kids
Yeah.
would, if we could ever get the kids to kind of come down while we were rehearsing, it was fun to involve them in the process when we could. I mean, you know, how often does a
Yeah.
10-year-old oftentimes they're a little in awe of the fact that all these adults around them are doing this.
Real life actors.
I know, it's, what is
So
this? What's
nice.
going on? Which,
Yeah.
you know, as I've talked to people who, as adults, you know, reflecting back on those experiences, they often say that just the fact that adults were in the room giving any kind of attention to their words was just the best thing they could have imagined. They didn't
That's so
care about,
fulfilling.
yeah, and they didn't care about the fact that anyone saw it, or that it was being performed, or it was a theater, or they were winning an award. It was more about that fact, which is great.
Yeah, I'm in awe of that. Like the work that you guys do just as theater educators, it's brilliant. So yeah, awesome.
Well, and it's making that connection, you know, bringing people like you into the room, to be there with the kids, you know. And I think even if they can't directly participate for whatever reason, just being able to see all of us, you know, creating that work and collaborating together and doing this stuff is really important. So it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So I always still try to ask these two questions as we're getting toward the end. What is the biggest challenge that you have overcome in your work, or overall? I mean, however, whatever that sparks.
It's a really good question. I've recently tried to basically redefine and repurpose myself in the way that I definitely want to have people see me as, and also like be inspired by, so that way if they see me exist, they know that they can also too exist and be comfortable in themselves. So that's a major kind of like pivotal obstacle, and also accomplishment that is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, the double-edged sword is a good way to put that. That's something, it came up in another conversation. Walter and I were talking about that. This idea that you can now, even having these tools in front of us, we can be in charge of that narrative and how important it is.
Yeah.
Not just for us, but for the other people who are seeing us.
Right.
You know,
everybody's watching all the time is what the assumption should be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, it should. Yes, it should. It's scary. Again, double-edged sword. It's that's great, but it's also a little scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So one last question for you too, because I know you're probably gonna need to get inside there.
Yeah, she's getting a little restless.
What would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to a young person who is looking to be creative? We'll keep it as general as we can.
Absolutely. Okay, so one dogma that I live my life by is walk with your eyes up. So that's being optimistic. That's also taking in and receiving all of the information that you see, being inspired by that, and just letting it exist around you. But also just to make sure that when you have an idea, that you keep that idea close to you, not that you don't share it with other people, but that you understand why it's so significant to you, because a lot of art is subjective and some people may have dissenting opinions, but that doesn't negate or nullify your passion, your interest, your ideas, your contributions to art, because everything is always growing. It's an ever expanding universe of ideas. So
that's great.
Keep going.
That's great. Yeah. That's perfect way to say it.
Thank you.
That's good. No, thank you. And I appreciate you, you know, sharing your experience and your advice, and appreciate you, man. I have really missed having the chance to work with you. So
yeah, me too.
I hope once all this
definitely will be reaching out to you so we can collaborate and hang out and spend some time together.
We definitely need to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jam. I appreciate you.
You too, Dare Bear. There we go. We got it.
All right, boss.
All right. Take care.
You too, boss.